And now to something different. We're going to zoom over to Australia, where our dear friend and colleague Germain has been waiting up. It's 1 o'clock in the morning for Germain now, but he's arrived and delighted. He is currently in Newcastle in Australia, and but he began his relationship with Solace, guess where? Above the railway station in City House all those years ago. And from there, after he got his status, he first became an advocacy volunteer with us. And then after he got status, he became employed as a staff member. Subsequently, he left to Australia nearly a decade ago to join his family, where he's continued to work tirelessly with refugees and many other things. So welcome, Germain. We invite you to say hello. The next sort of 20 minutes or so, Germain will tell his story, and we'll do this in an interview format. And again, any questions can be put in the chat, and hopefully Germain will be able to stay awake to answer any. Welcome, Germain.
Thank you very much, Anne. I'd say good afternoon to everybody. It's almost 2 a.m. Here. And I'm really excited and very happy to be around to just be part of this Solace 15th anniversary. It brings me a lot of memories, and I'm really, really happy to see the wonderful faces of people. Divine, thank you very much for your presentation. I see Azam, I see my wonderful manager, Andrew, I see Peter Coltman, I see Gillian, I see Nick Edwards, I see a lot of faces. I see Kate Ferguson, all my colleagues. So happy to be here today to witness this wonderful moment 10 years after. So thank you for inviting me, Anne. I'm really grateful.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to stay up, to be part of this wonderful moment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here in Australia right now. I've been here since December 2011, when I left UK under the family reunion program. After a very tough and difficult time in the UK as an asylum seeker, I would say as a failed asylum seeker, that's matter. And, the struggle, the pain, the suffering that I have to endure, even though it finally paid off in 2010, that was in June 2010. Yeah, but those who worked with me at Solace, they know exactly what I had to endure, as many of other asylum seekers and failed asylum seekers go through. Well, I joined Solace when they were, I think, at City Building near the train station. That was, I think, the beginning of Solace, 2007, if I may be right. And yeah, that's when I joined Solace as a client to receive psychological counseling. I was going through tough time, difficult time, really, really at the peak of my life. And Solace gave me hope, I would say. Solace brought me back. My life was at the brink of collapse. I was dying, to cut it short. And coming to Solace, and I always want to say this, I think Andrew bears witness of what nearly happened to me in that building when I was about to jump into the train track. Because of what was going on in my mind, I was, without knowing where my family was and the difficult time that I was going through in the asylum system in the UK, I nearly, commit suicide. And at that particular verge of jumping, one person pulled me over, and that was Andrew Hawkins. Andrew Hawkins pulled me over and said, "What are you doing?" And from that moment, I started receiving counseling at Solace. And the counseling, not only counseling, but they blessed me with so many resources, not only counseling, but psychosocial support, and Solace, for me, Solace is like family. It's everything that I dreamed. I knew that I'd lost my family. I never had the news about them, but Solace, the resources, the support, that they put in my disposal were so amazing to the fact that I really came back. And that particular support created that hope in me and trust that I bestowed upon what Solace did. And I believe that Solace continues to do the same to so many, many other asylum seekers who were in the same situation like me. And the support that Solace gave me hugely changed my life, and it made me who I am today. Today, I am successful in my career. Today, I'm happy that I have my family with me. Today, I am also touching other people's life, refugees and asylum seekers, because of what Solace did. Had it not be for Solace, I don't know where I would have been. And for me, I'm throwing this, thanks to all the trustees, all the people who are supporting Solace. And I'm really pleading with you to continue the good work that you're doing. Don't let Solace is having impact on people's lives. And I want that to continue for so many, many years to come. That is my message.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. When we're all working from home, we have this intersection between our personal and our public lives, the work we do together. So I think Germain's had to take a little break. As you can see, Germain's had a huge experience of going through the asylum process. But just to give you a little bit of background, he's from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, from the eastern region, where he was a teacher and where he was very involved in supporting people who were vulnerable, setting up a charity to help people who were malnourished, providing food, and also as a human rights activist. And as a result of his challenging work, he was forced to flee the Congo with his younger sister. They arrived in the UK, and Germain was incredibly hardworking, very bright, but it was just such a challenge and such a struggle. It took a long time to get his status, but when he did, he responded by helping other people through Solace. And welcome back, Germain. I was just giving a little bit of background about how you came from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where you'd previously been involved as a teacher and as someone who'd set up NGOs and was quite an activist.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Basically, right now I'm at work. I'm working with I'm working as a disability support worker on top of my morning shift. So for a little bit of extra income. So that's why you could see some, scream of the people living with disability I'm working with. Well, so basically, thank you. And so I came from the Democratic Republic of Congo on the 17th of January, 2005. That when I got in the UK. And the moment I arrived, life was really tough, very tough. But prior to that, back in my country, I was a teacher by profession and a human rights activist under the Health of Justice organization. And also I set up a couple of NGOs, humanitarian NGO, local ones, that my main job was to support people, who were in deep, need of support, like people who were suffering from malnutrition. And I set up that NGO to go and screen, especially children, elderly who were malnourished, and took them to hospital for treatment. On top of that, I also set up this NGO to dig like dams to stock fish, so we can continue to help those people after hospitalization. So that was it. And on top of that, when I was under the human rights activism, that's where I got into trouble, which led me to the UK. So it was tough. It was tough.
Thank you, Germain, for that background. So there's a real continuity to what you started in the Congo, in your life in the UK, and now you're in Australia. Can you tell us a little bit more about your life in Australia and particularly the work that you're doing with refugees?
Thank you very much. I came to Australia under the family reunion. I was really happy to see my family reunited. When I got in trouble, my son was 2. He barely knew me until I came to Australia. So when I came to Australia, I came first as a client to an organization called SSI, Settlement Service International. And from that, I joined them as a volunteer to start working with other refugees. And because of my UK experience, Australia has this particular funny ways of recognizing people's experience. So mine was refused, so I had to go through education process. So I went and do double diploma of community services work and case management for me to be employed in my area. So I got those 2 diplomas, and then I got my job with SSI as a case manager to work with refugees, especially asylum seekers released from detention centers across Australia. So I started working with them, and from 2012 to 2016, I moved to Nauru and Manus Island, where there are a lot of asylum seekers who have been, kept in those refugee camps in those 2 countries. It's a terrible condition. So I spent as an expat 9 months in Nauru, which is a tiny, tiny island of 21 square kilometers. So I stayed there working with asylum seekers who were kept there as boat arrival, unwanted people in Australia. So Australia had to take them to those islands to stay there, to process them there. But Australia never allowed them to come on shore. So they stayed there for nearly 6 years. Imagine the conditions, and terrible. So I spent 9 months there, and the organization I was working for went into administration. So I had to come back to Australia. And that's where I got my job with STARTS, where I'm working right now. So STARTS is similarly to Solace. So STARTS stands for Service for the Treatment and the Rehabilitation of Torture and Trauma Survivors. As you can see, my name says Germain STARTS. So STARTS is our organization. I've been with STARTS since 2018. First of all, I worked as a project officer under the Witness to War program. So the Witness to War program is a program I set up myself. I wrote the proposals, and we got funding for it. So I was leading it. So it was for 1 year. And once that program ended, so I joined the program called the African Prison Support Program. So the African Prison Support Program is a program that I also sat down to write the proposal for it, and to work with the Department of New South Wales Department of Justice under the Correction Services, just to provide psychosocial support to inmates of African background who did not have support from anywhere else. So the purpose was to coordinate the program and to pay visits to those inmates, but also to build bridge with their families outside, but also to put in place mechanism when they are released, they don't just go and stay, but we put mechanism to help them find accommodation, to help them find work, to help them go back into education so that they can, regain their normal lives. So that's the program. I will still go back to that program. So my organization find it okay for me to come to Newcastle to establish another program, which is called the CLSR program. So the CLSR stands for Community Living Support for Refugees with Mental Health. So the New South Wales government found that refugees were forgotten. They were forgotten, but they are people who are living with a lot of stigma, a lot of mental health and trauma and torture issues. So the government put $6 million in place for us to support those people. So it's the program that I am coordinating and managing that program in the Hunter region and New England region, which comprise Newcastle and Armidale. So that's where I'm working at the moment.
Wow. Thank you, Germain.